I believe that every pick matters in fantasy basketball, and I'm going to help you look at some under-the-radar guys that you can get for your team. We're going to be looking at some guys that could potentially help you out in your points leagues, and they're drafted around the hundreds on ESPN and Yahoo. The first guy I'm going to be discussing is Yair Diomand from the Brooklyn Nets. He was drafted 8th overall in this past summer's draft. And yes, that's how you pronounce his name, not Igor Demon, Yair Diomand. A lot of people seem to have criticized Brooklyn for making this draft choice. You know, they expected to pick someone like Kaman Malawach or Colin Murray Boyles, but they really like Yair. I definitely see some concerns with him for sure, as he hasn't really shot the ball well at BYU, and his athleticism will leave him exposed on defense. It's also kind of weird that they drafted Ben Saroff and Nolan Traore later on, 2 more point guards, and they also recently traded for Kobe Buffkins. So, there's going to be like a 5-guard lineup or something? I don't know. However, Yair is looking to be the favorite to be the starting point guard for Brooklyn on opening night. They definitely need his playmaking, considering that Cam Thomas and MPJ are on the same team. So it's going to be difficult when it comes to passing amongst the other players in the starting lineup. He averaged 5.5 assists at BYU, set some passing records there. And he's also 6'9", so he can potentially get some rebounds on the Brooklyn Nets too. If he can get like 12 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, that's pretty good for your bench and depth on your fantasy team. So I definitely don't mind taking him with one of your last picks for sure. The next guy I'm going to be talking about is another rookie that might not start right away, but he could be very good for your bench as a stash. That guy is Ryan Colbrenner, the 2nd round pick out of Creighton for the Charlotte Hornets. Ryan was a 2nd round pick mainly because he's one of the older rookies in this draft class, and he played through his senior year. He's actually low-key a steal for them. But Ryan had a very good senior season as he showcased his finishing around the rim and his shot blocking ability. Now he's in a pretty interesting situation as the Hornets recently traded Mark Williams to the Phoenix Suns and now need to fill their hole at center. However, like I said, he's not going to start right away as there's 2 veterans that are in front of him in the depth chart at this moment. Although it's Moussa Diabate and Mason Plumlee. Look, I understand there's some excitement for Moussa Diabate in fantasy drafts as he is the favorite to be the starting center on opening night. But the thing is, he's a very undersized center at 6'9" and mostly played power forward last season. So I don't think the Hornets really want him to be their franchise center anytime soon. There's also Mason Plumlee, who has some chemistry and rapport with LaMelo Ball, but he's getting up there in age, and I don't think the Hornets are going to give him too many minutes, to be honest with you. Alright, now let's get back to Colbrenner, who could easily take that starting center spot because the talent there isn't really the best. I mean, he has a big opportunity here to get that starting spot later down the road in this season. And if he can start, he's going to benefit off the pick and roll and passes from LaMelo Ball. I thought he was a steal for the Hornets, and he could be a steal for your fantasy drafts. I would say take him with one of your last picks. Up next, we're going to be talking about a couple of guys battling to become the starting center for the Indiana Pacers. Now, we know that Miles Turner left in free agency to become a Milwaukee Buck. And as a result, the Pacers traded for Jay Huff. Throughout his career, Huff has pretty much been a journeyman as he's never stayed past a year on any NBA team. However, he did have his most productive season in his entire NBA career, even though it was only for 12 minutes a game. He averaged almost 7 points a game with nearly a block in 64 appearances for the Memphis Grizzlies. He did show some flashes of shot blocking, 3-point shooting, and reverse dunks. But the Grizzlies didn't have much room for him to get a lot of minutes due to Edey, Clark, Jaren Jackson. It was a lot of depth in the front court. Despite that, it was enough for the Pacers to try and go after him due to the fact that Miles Turner left and that they need more center depth for sure. I mean, when you really think about it, he does have some of the same skill sets as Miles Turner. Obviously not as good, but when it comes to his shot blocking and 3-point shooting. This is easily the biggest opportunity that Jay Huff has ever had to get a lot of minutes on a team and to become a starter. He's worth taking a shot at the later rounds, but there's one thing that we're all probably thinking. Like, why is his ADP so low considering the fact that he could be the starting center for Indiana? Well, let's just say that the starting lineup is not really confirmed yet at this moment, as there is one other guy on the team that the Pacers might be big on. Isaiah Jackson has been with the Pacers for a while now, since 2021. It's crazy because I've been waiting for a while for Isaiah Jackson to be fantasy relevant because he was always behind Miles Turner. Jackson is very talented. He's a great shot blocker. He can grab some boards. He's very efficient when it comes to his inside scoring. I know he's not a shooter, but I believe he's more talented than Jay Huff. I know that last season he suffered a torn Achilles, but he's pretty much close to being healthy for the start of the NBA season. And what's interesting to me is that he's actually practicing with the starters during training camp. Also, let's not forget that Indiana actually gave him a contract extension, so they must believe in him a lot. There's probably some concerns that he could be resting back-to-backs due to that injury, but I would still take a chance if he becomes the starting center for Indiana. So the main question is, who should you go for in points leagues? I think that it depends on if you believe that Isaiah Jackson's talent will outplay Jay Huff's ability to space the floor for Indiana. Like I said, Indiana extended Jackson, so take that as you will. Alright, so now I'm going to be talking about a guy who could hopefully become a complete 3-and-D player. I like some 3-and-D wings because they're versatile enough to be good on offense and get some defensive stats too. Guys like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby are pretty underrated when it comes to fantasy. But with this guy, he's in an intriguing situation. Herb Jones from the New Orleans Pelicans has always been underrated in fantasy. I know that he's loved more in categories because of his steals, but he could be useful for points leagues too. And he's pretty underrated when passing the ball too, as he's getting better and better when it comes to his assist numbers. But he's definitely known for his steals and his blocks, which is very valuable and underrated for points leagues too. He unfortunately played only 20 games due to a shoulder injury, but he just got an extension and is here to stay in New Orleans. He's still going to get a lot of minutes for this team because of how good he is defensively, but I want him to take it to the next level offensively. The Pelicans need him to make his threes, and hopefully he'll step up to the next level so he can become a great piece for your fantasy points leagues teams. Like, he really could be an OG Anunoby type of player for fantasy if he can take more shots and make more threes. I expect him to go from 10 to 11 points to 15 points per game. You might be scared to draft him like a lot of other people on ESPN and Yahoo because of his shoulder injury, but he should be ready to go by the time the NBA starts. Now, there is one more guy that at first I didn't think was going to have a lot of value, but as the weeks and months are going by, he actually could be fantasy relevant for points leagues. It's Nikola Jovic, not Nikola Jokic, from the Miami Heat. To be honest with you, I never really saw anything special with Nikola Jovic these past few seasons, and he's missed a lot of games too. However, my mind was changed when I saw that he got a contract extension from the Heat, surprisingly. I personally didn't believe he earned it, to be honest with you. Like I said, he's missed a lot of games throughout his NBA career. But I guess he might have showed something that Spo and the front office liked a lot. Or maybe Riley is tired and thought he was signing Jokic, I don't know. But all jokes aside, Jovic is still 22 years old. He has room to grow into a really good NBA player if he can lock in. And I actually seen some of his passing numbers. They're pretty underrated. He's a good passer. Jovic is also a good shooter too. And hopefully he can score more points with Jimmy Butler leaving and Tyler Hero missing the start of the NBA season. But the biggest thing for me is Jovic might actually be in the starting lineup instead of Kel'el Ware, which is actually surprising to me. I thought they were still going to do the Bam at power forward thing with Ware, but I guess I'm wrong now, so that sucks. But if Jovic can actually have a breakout year, he could be a big steal for your fantasy team in points leagues. He could become a big steal at his ADP for sure. And those are the guys that I think are sleepers for your points leagues that could help you with your team. In the beginning, I mentioned that it was going to be players that were drafted around the hundreds on ESPN and Yahoo. I highly recommend that you don't reach for any of these guys. You don't have to draft them before someone else does. Just let them reach for them instead, because you don't want to overpay for the value that you can get later on. And it's always important when you know that you can get that value during the draft. That one player at the end of your draft could be the big difference maker for you. I wanted to make this video primarily to help those in deeper leagues, like in 12-man leagues, 14, 16, 20 if you're crazy enough to do that. But you always have to remember that the makeup of your team does not end at the draft. 8 and 10-man leagues are going to have these guys available in free agency. So just in case, always check the waiver wire to see if these guys are available. You always have to look at every player's situation and minutes that they can get on their respective teams. You have to believe in yourself in order to win that fantasy basketball trophy at the end of the season. Feel free to ask some questions in the comments and I'll be ready to answer. If you want some preparation for your upcoming draft, look at the mock draft playlist here.